I know we've debated, and there's the issue of employee evaluations from of seven. We hire seven. And debated whether the evaluation should be made public or not. And I wanted to. I think this is a good time to just throw it out for discussion about should the 7 people we hire, should their evaluation be public, notwithstanding the other parts of the law. So I want to just throw that idea out about. I've always felt comfortable, kind of like what Judy passed out the other day. The evaluations of the superintendent of education were made public, right? Whether you do it by grade, whether you do it by narrative, whether you do it by 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I've always liked the idea, especially when we had the controversy over the raises that were done a couple of Novembers ago, and the controversy of how they were done, right? It led to the whole discussion about, so what's the best way to evaluate our people? Actually led to a discussion that we've never quite finished, that we should evaluate our people. We should do it more regularly, and then try to do it more systematically. I know the chairman has had ideas, people have had ideas on what exactly that is, and then that those evaluations, I've always advocated for the idea that at least for our 7, because we're elected and everything we do is public, and we're accountable to those people, that the 7 we hire, that we make their evaluations public. And when Judy passed out the samples that the Board of Education used for at least its most senior employee, and I like that idea, that we would say, how did John B. do? How did we evaluate John B? How did we evaluate Miguel? And the 7 there's only 7, I believe, that we hire by law. And then, but that since we represent the people, then we would report to the people our report card on the 7 that we hire, and that we would make it public.
Let me explain.
I know there's some healthy debate about, but I wanted to throw that out, and I thought this would be a good time to debate it in the group, right? And if we want to change it or not.
If I could just comment real quickly, we have it already in Rule 2, in 2.1.
Later on.
2.1.
Okay, do we get to it later?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
if we get to it later, then I can
Mike,
do it later.
Mike has a proposal on it later
Okay, I'll
well,
give it that.
it's in the draft, so
Is it?
we'll
No,
discuss it.
It's later on.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's in
as long as the
Rule-
topic is discussed, that's fine.
Don't,
Okay.
The only reason why I would want to
Wait.
defer is because this one
The
section was
sequencing, yeah.
specifically for the statute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just stick with the sequence,
Yes.
yeah.
Good, okay.
But we have it coming up in section
That
2.
will come up
Rule
under
2.
evaluation. There's a
Okay,
specific section.
okay,
on
thank you,
evaluation.
that's good.
Okay.
So amendments.
So we're back to 1.2.3.7, and 9 rather, amendments.
No change, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't see any.
I'm sorry, did we clear 1.2.3.2 A and B, right? We cleared all that?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We're on
okay.
page
We're up at
7.
7, we're at 7,
We're on
right?
page 7,
Got
yeah.
it, my bad.
I think,
On
right?
page 6,
I'm sorry, I'm just trying.
I gotta make sure I'm,
I went to order right now.
Okay. Take time.
Yes. So page, Judy, I
7.
think you're right.
Page 7,
In my page, it's 11.
in your page as well? Oh, okay.
But it's under the 1.2.3.9
Yeah,
amendment.
amendments, right.
How come it's a different page than the?
Because I've made some changes, so it could
It's
just
moving.
be.
Oh, you're talking about the
Yeah.
new one?
The
Okay, all right.
And then besides that, what's going to happen?
under amendments, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and
Then
so,
the whole thing's gonna change.
Thank you.
yeah, see, what happens is later on, Judy, Mike said he'll print out
So we go through it one more time.
one,
You already have all the changes in your email for what we did the last
Yeah.
session.
Yeah.
Then I'll send it out again. Every
Okay.
session I'll send it.
right, and then what we
And then
can-
Lou later can give us a printed update
Yeah.
Yeah.
when we're finished.
Yeah.
Then we
Yeah.
can go through that final copy.
Or if you like, I can start accepting all the changes we made so that it could be printed out. But unless you want to review the changes again.
The end.
Right.
Oh, yes, no, no,
Right,
definitely.
right.
But
So
why
we
don't
don't
you,
stop.
yeah, I would say print with the changes,
Okay.
and then that way, my thought is, when we're all done, we would then go back
Yeah,
and
start
and
again.
just go
Review
through it
it.
real quick.
Yeah,
and say,
together.
this is all good. We can vote by section, Rule
Okay.
one, rule
Yeah,
two.
so the only thing about reading it with the changes is just, it's really confusing, it's all marked up. You'll see when we print it, you'll see how,
Okay.
so if you accept it, it just cleans it up, and then you have the changed language,
Okay,
and then we could review the
is this
changed
the
language.
thing that you sent us?
Yeah, but
How do I
it's,
accept it?
you go to the top right, and I'll show you how on the computer,
Okay.
but
I
we'll
didn't
do that
bring my,
later. Yeah.
next time.
Can
You
I
show me
also
next
do
time.
it verbally? Accept it?
You can't talk
You're
to the
talking to
computer.
old
You're talking
people.
about talking to the computer.
I don't like using the damn computer.
You're talking to two old people, Mike. I'm sorry. It's just
Hey,
that
hey, 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 hey.
Okay, don't worry, we'll figure out, we'll figure it
we'll
out.
work on it.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I like having both. I like having the original draft,
Yeah, you can
and
look.
then, kind
The
of
change.
like at the legislature.
Yeah, we're
again.
doing the
I apologize to
legislature.
Joey.
So you have this and
Where
you
you
have
have, how did it start, and then how did the group
Yeah, how
propose
did
to
it end
amend
up?
it? And then
Double
and
check.
I like reading the version that had the strike through and changes.
And then reading the
Before
clean
Mike accepts those changes, because we might beat it up again. We might
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
now that we saw the original language, and we saw our new language that we talked about 2 weeks ago, we didn't, now that we thought about it, we wanna go left instead of right.
version. Okay.
Mike at least is documenting for us, this is
Sure.
where you started.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This is what the last meeting said you wanted to change. So right now, what you sent to us today was based on the last meeting. The
With the
draft, the draft changes of the group is there. Okay.
Plus the strikeout.
Plus the strike-throughs, right, okay.
So you have the original,
Right.
you have the evolution of how it was and
The
how it is
evolution,
now.
perfect, that's exactly right.
And so I'll keep doing that.
And then when we're done, his last button he hits is, everybody done, we got everything? Then he hits accept changes.
Yeah.
And we'll see the amended final version for,
And that's what
Full
we'll vote on. The amended, the final draft, clean.
but it kind of reminds us, especially because.
Yeah, no, I get that. I like that. It's just that I'm going to keep printing mine out in
No,
hard
that's good,
copy.
that's good.
So I'll send it, I'll try and do it in advance so that everybody, Lou can print it for everybody that wants it printed.
Okay, thank you.
So amendments, any
No.
issues here?
Okay, so I want to make sure, what section are we on now?
1.2.3.9
Amendments. okay.
amendments. And basically, what this next several sections are is just basically defining how we proceed through our
The
meetings.
process.
Yes, debate, calls to order, all that stuff. It's basically procedural. But if you want any changes, let me. And once again, when we're discussing it, right, we're talking about new incoming commissioners, what they would be given, how they would be able to follow the rules, and what they would be expected to do is, in a meeting, right, to help guide them.
Right. It's our internal governance.
Yep.
Right.
Most of it's just very basic procedural, parliamentary procedure text.
I apologize, Chairman, are both versions now in here, Lou? I'm up to like 55 pages.
I put together some versions that I was funding
That
in.
you're
I
gonna
didn't know how
propose.
to do the strike.
No problem.
That's
So,
good.
you know,
But
I'm referring
I'm
back.
trying to have the chairman's version and the original version, and just so that when the chairman, we get to your section, I can read. So I know in board books, I have 55 pages. Thought the first
Those are,
22 was the chairman's, and the second 22 is the original draft from the committee. And the chairman's is first? Okay, perfect, okay. Follow it. So we're now 1239 amendment.
So, amendments? So looking at mine, I don't think.
yeah, most of this stuff is really you know, for example, 1.2.3.15, interruption not permitted. This would have come in handy at one of our meetings earlier.
I thought that was your favorite
You
section.
know, I gotta tell you, I agree. Struggle with this, share the meeting time. We have commission. We're all very passionate. I think what I'm gonna do, and this is just an aside, I think I'm just calling for 5-minute recess when we get situation. You know, just a.
That's been known to happen.
Oh, are we talking about 123.15?
Yeah.
Yeah. The one that
It just, it
interrupts
was
is not
just,
permitted.
it was just joke. Come on, we're all just having.
Things happen.
We want lively debate, but we do
Yeah.
want to
But, you know,
be respectful.
when it kind of gets heated, I think
And what is the,
5-minute
what is
interruptions
the
might be
discipline under the CC rules? What is discipline?
Just suspend the meeting for a little bit.
Yeah, or, you know,
Well, I mean, the chairman can always do that. I mean, but we're actually referring to, we would discipline a member for, you know, talking over someone. I mean, that's what the language says, right? A violation may subject the commissioner to discipline. What is the discipline? I mean, it's sort of like we're saying something that no one would ever actually invoke.
Yeah.
You know, if someone, I prefer the timeout than, because it begs the question, okay,
Yeah,
so.
that's better than,
Yeah,
that,
so
discipline is not a good word.
Okay. What would you like to change it to?
How about we treat it in the affirmative? You know, something that commissioners shall respect the right for each individual to speak freely on their views without unnecessary interruption. Maybe just take out penalty, because I don't know what the penalty would be. No, I like the chairman's recommendation. If he calls timeout, there's no penalty.
Say appropriate decorum shall accompany
Yeah, just keep it
all
like in
discussions.
the affirmative. It's more like an attitude.
Well, how about say, appropriate decorum shall guide all discussions by commissioners
I like that one.
during
We could also
During
just-
deliberation, during deliberations.
deliberations.
We
Yeah.
could also just delete that whole sentence after and just say no commissioner shall be interrupted when.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Okay, there you go. That's even easier. Okay.
I'll just have
But
to
you're gonna
be-
leave a violation may be subject.
No,
just take it
delete
out.
that
We're deleting
There's
Take that out.
no-
Delete that.
Oh, that part take out.
Yeah, take that part
Delete
out.
that last.
Sort of like the Ten Commandments. It doesn't say what happens if
You don't wanna say
you shall
that,
not,
Just don't do it.
or else God will cut your left leg off.
No
A
commissioner.
lot
Send
of
you home
these,
without dinner.
a lot of these rules were
When someone's
adopted from
speaking.
the legislature, right? So it was really to prevent people from, you know, grandstanding, from.
Like
Yeah,
in
that
the
never
So-
happens. That
right.
never happens in the legislature.
And so-
Grandstanding.
So the discipline, right, was to make sure that, hey, there is some fine line between what the speaker will be able to do to a senator that's in violation of the rules, right? So there was a disciplinary action, so we don't have to have that.
You weren't there. When I first became a senator, my first term, I think it was my second session. When Governor Calvo, was senator, he was Speaker Calvo. And Mark was Speaker. And he and Governor Calvo got at it. We were on recess for a couple minutes. And this started up. And they started yelling at each other, using very vulgar words. And I'm sitting there watching this right in front of my desk. I couldn't believe it. And the TV cameras were still on. I don't know if the sound was on or off, but it was just terrible,
Mhm.
Finally, I said, gentlemen, please stop. This is not the place for this.
Well,
That didn't help. They continued. It was really
so I
bad.
think I like your
That's why you
suggestion, just
picked
delete
great,
that
that's
sentence.
why you picked
did.
great tenor.
And I'll try to
Yeah.
And I'm Pinko
do a
pick.
better job.
Oh, when he was
Time out.
taking the thing from Judy or whatever.
But they kissed and made up. They're good.
Okay,
He took care of Mark.
It was a dramatic, yeah. Is Mark still around? I haven't seen him. Okay.
okay, closing debate, I had nothing on that.
Okay. So we're
Points of
down.
order,
Yeah, most of these
most of it's straightforward.
very parliamentary
Yeah.
type of. I think we had a comment about attire, whether we wanted to include that in there.
Yes, that's, where's that?
That's,
Oh.
A
Yeah.
tie vote, did you say?
No, attire.
attire, just dress.
Okay.
Oh, attire. Okay, attire.
Yeah, You know, the only thing, when I looked at this is,
No jeans, ooh, I put that in there, I should.
yeah, you said no jeans, no t-shirts, and our general managers sometimes, because they're out in the field, and a lot of our people, they wear jeans.
Yeah,
Yeah, wait a
And-
minute.
And I like t-shirts like you guys are wearing, I'm wearing a shirt for, it's strange, because sometimes you guys wear shirts and I wear t-shirts.
How about just say
So-
the attire must be presentable?
Just, yeah.
and it's in there.
Respectful.
Yeah,
It's
just say
in-
it that way.
It says
Where's
in
that?
there, it's the second
At all
sentence, so
meetings?
just delete the last sentence, right?
Yeah, t-shirt, shorts.
Yeah, take out
This
that,
is-
take all of that.
Okay, just shall be appropriate.
And we don't admit anybody onto the floor, right? Just-
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
no, there is no floor. I
Yeah,
mean,
so
this-
I think Mike's got the right idea, just
Yeah.
language that just says attire shall be appropriate.
Yeah,
Do we have a reporter's gallery?
no.
No, we let them sit in here, well, we used to, now we
Yeah.
let them sit out there.
I
Are we
mean,
gonna say
they
to the,
sit here.
on the floor?
That's what Simon says, is he
Yeah.
wants to delete,
So-
Where it's
so
not
can we
applicable.
just-
Or we don't have rules.
For
Yeah, we-
all
we-
those admitted,
Okay,
Yeah.
I see, so take that off, so,
can we just
okay.
say for all those admitted,
Yep.
take out on the floor, reporters gallery, attire shall be appropriate?
Done.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And actually, I don't think we can regulate what others wear.
no, you can't.
We're just regulating ourselves.
Yeah.
If a member of the public wants to attend the meeting and wears, Zoris and
At all
shorts,
meetings of the commission,
We're
we're
attire
not,
shall
we're not
be
gonna
appropriate.
mute them, are we?
Yeah, no, no, that would,
Attire shall be
We're not gonna kick them out.
that would be
Yep.
really
That'd be
bad.
the worst thing to
Okay.
do.
No,
Firearms, I
Firearms?
don't have a problem with that.
wait,
Do we need a reference to it?
Uh,
It's I mean,
delete?
yeah, I take it out. I mean, some of the stuff I think,
no, I think we should have it, what if we get somebody like, Jim Miles elected?
well, he can bring his firearm if he's allowed to carry it, he just can't point it at people. But I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think we gotta put every law in, I'm not a,
So delete?
I would recommend it.
Wait.
I'd like, no, because Simon,
We don't want weapons in the room.
Simon, some people have the right now for concealed weapons
Correct.
and
Yes,
carry
dangerous.
permits.
So how can you say they can't bring it into a meeting?
Because it's our meeting, we can say no.
But he has the right, I don't think our meeting, our internal rules can't trump a law. If you have
The
the legal right to.
legislature regulates it.
I bet if someone walked in there with a right to carry, I
But
don't
they
think,
have- I think
I
they
don't think they
have-
could kick them out.
The legislature has a rule, they don't allow firearms in the session hall.
Yeah,
Well,
this
I
is
think-
a
I think here's the
legislative.
difference.
Am I correct?
That's correct.
Then I don't think we
Okay,
should allow it
well,
here either.
here's the difference to me, right? The floor in the legislature is where only the 21 or 15 can speak.
Yeah.
All of our meetings are open to the public. The public is allowed to sit, well, until COVID, was allowed to sit in the room
You-
or even sit outside.
Yeah.
And if a guy has a right to carry, how can you say you can't attend the meeting?
No, but I have a different perspective
taping?
now. Let me tell you why, Simon. Things are kind of cuckoo in the world today.
Yeah.
You have people that are mad, but for some reason, they'll walk in here very emotional, have a weapon, maybe start to threaten people.
But they're gonna do that whether you have this rule or not.
Well, but I like to have the rule.
And
so
what's your,
this was
what's your
all-
enforcement and what's your penalty?
Well, it's the policy, that we don't allow it. If someone wants to violate the policy and it causes trouble and hurts us, well, that's one of the charges, that they violated the policy.
But it's not against the law to violate a board's rules. These are internal rules applying to us.
But it's for our safety. We have an obligation
Well, if
for
you wanna say
safety.
no commissioner can bring in a firearm.
No, it's for everybody who comes
I
in
don't think you
here.
can regulate the public that way.
Yes, you can.
If we just said, if a guy walks in with Zoris and t-shirt, we can't kick him
Yeah,
out.
but you know,
Yeah,
that's not a weapon.
that's a little different.
That's not
To
a
me-
weapon.
Okay.
To me, I would say it's okay, I didn't have a problem with the statement.
Yeah.
You are right, I don't know how you
Yeah, what's the
control it,
enforcement?
I know,
Yeah.
but.
Just saying
but
that firearms are not permitted in the,
At
meeting
CCU
room.
meetings, that's all.
at CCU
And you
meetings.
can get rid of the second sentence if you want. What I'm trying to say is you wanna put it out there so people will think twice and say,
Yeah,
well,
no
they don't
firearms
want
or deadly
firearms
weapons
at
are
their meeting.
permitted.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm
Go
like
ahead.
Judy.
I'm okay either way. I agree
At
with
CCU.
Commissioner Sanchez that it's gonna be very difficult to enforce, and I'm not sure we can, but.
Well, I would just
I'm
remove
okay.
the second sentence.
The second sentence?
Yeah, just say-
We're making a policy call on our side and say, for our purposes,
Okay.
we desire
So
not
no
to have.
firearms or deadly weapons are permitted at CCU
But
meetings.
I do wanna make one distinction, to me anyway.
Yeah,
These are the rules that apply to the 5 of us. They don't apply to the general public. This is not the public's rules. You gotta pass a law to apply rules to the public. These are just our internal governance. How do we govern ourselves?
Okay.
So if it says no CCU member can bring in a gun,
we also have federal guidelines for utilities to cut down on potential terrorist attacks and other things. You think Mr. Benavente is gonna allow weapons inside this building?
If someone has a right to carry a weapon, he can't stop them.
Actually,
He can, under
yes, he
federal law
can.
How
now.
can he stop them?
Under federal law. You're an
If a
utility-
guy is licensed to carry a
know.
concealed
It's
weapon,
under the
but-
Terrorist
but-
Act of 164488, Federal Register.
you're not allowed to carry concealed weapons on Guam?
No,
No,
Not in-
inside utility premises.
inside certain
It's under
restricted
the
premises.
federal
For
terrorist law.
utilities.
Well, then we don't need it in our rule. There's a
No,
law.
we gotta have it, we gotta have it.
No, all it is a statement to inform people. But it, Simon, no, it is, because this,
We're being consistent with
because somebody wanting to attack
He's
the
gonna do
electric
it
system.
anyway.
Yeah, but they would come here, because that's where
They're gonna do
PSCC.
it anyway.
I know, but you wanna deter them, you want.
They're not gonna read, if someone wants to shoot us, they're not gonna read the rule and say, oh gee, I'm not gonna shoot you guys.
But
They're gonna shoot
there,
us.
but there are signs outside that say no firearms allowed.
Yes.
No, I'm
But-
just saying.
but-
So, let's put it this way. Let's make this a simple statement, and then let's leave it up to the general managers to be the ones to control.
But these
They
aren't rules for the general manager.
No, no,
Wait,
no,
wait,
no, no.
wait.
The general managers,
GovCon has a policy all over the place. You can't bring weapons to school. No firearms, no knives, no nothing, no this or no that. This is no different than that.
yeah,
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. If you have a license to carry a concealed weapon, how can you be
you
prohibited
can't
from
take
bringing?
it
There
everywhere.
are limitations.
There are limitations.
As
And
defined.
there are
as
limitations
defined
for
by law.
certain
But
facilities.
they're in law, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because these are rules that only apply
But
to the
this
firearms.
is reflective of the federal law on
They're
terrorism.
federal, Simon.
Well, then,
Simon,
if you wanna
Judy's-
say no CCU member can bring in firearms.
No, no, no.
I don't think we can make rules for the public.
No,
we
Simon,
can say no
Simon,
What is this, what does the title say? It's
Simon?
the CCU standing rules. It's
It
not
says
that.
that the public utilities now are considered strategic terrorist targets,
Right.
and they therefore have the right to
Correct.
prohibit the entry of weapons on your premises.
So Simon?
So we're just keeping
Okay.
in tune with that
So
federal.
Simon, though, you do have federal laws, Judy's right. So there is a federal law, you cannot bring firearms into an educational facility.
Or a utility.
And in addition to that, there are certain other restricted places, utilities are one of them.
Yeah.
So the general managers will enforce those federal laws, okay? That's their job. This is just,
So why
this
do we need
is,
this section at all?
this is just a statement
So it's
for
on
our
the record
purposes.
for us
for our-
that it applies.
that we
It
adhere
applies
to
to
this.
ourselves, though. It doesn't apply to the
Yeah,
public.
you can say it applies to
The
ourselves.
other law.
The way it's read, I think anybody would know that they shouldn't bring a weapon in this room.
Yeah,
That's all. We're
Okay,
just
anyway.
making them aware.
That's okay. I mean, that's okay. It's not.
but I would get rid of the second sentence.
Yeah, that simply should say no firearms or deadly weapons are permitted at CCU meetings.
I removed the second sentence.
Okay.
Okay. Good, good.
I don't have the, as such are described by the Guam Police Department.
Yeah,
You
you
can
don't
leave
need that,
in.
you don't need
You
that,
can
because
take
we're
that out.
following a federal, that's why I said,
No firearms.
deadly weapons are permitted at CCU meetings.
No
Okay,
firearms or
okay,
deadly
okay.
weapons, okay,
Got it, got it, got it.
okay. Cell phones and electronic devices,
That's fine. Okay.
yeah.
Then more parliamentary type rules.
Questions, yeah, question, debate.
Mike, do we ever get to, I remember there was a sort of a blanket discussion on Mason's rules versus Robert's rules. And
I think
I thought we wanted Robert's rules.
Yes.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's what we're using.
So
Did
I
we get
think-
to that later, or is that, or
No,
did we
that
mention
was,
it at all?
that was further up, and most of these parliamentary rules are
Flowing
from,
from Roberts?
Yeah, they are from Roberts, right?
Yeah.
But, and we
I
did
read
mention it earlier.
Yes, I
Okay.
think we took care of
We're
that
good, then
already,
we're
right?
good, we're good.
Yeah,
Thank
most
you.
of
care
the,
of that.
most of the, I think
we
uses
just
Roberts.
needed to make sure that we define Masons or Roberts, which
Yes.
I haven't done yet, but I will.
We
Okay,
have to do that.
And we
Okay.
want Roberts, right?
Yes.
Roberts, yeah.
Okay.
okay. I don't have a problem with the cell phone part.
Yeah, I'm good.
You want, when you put presiding officer, can we just put chairperson?
Because it may not be the chairperson.
Like,
It
So
could be-
you're
it could be the
absent,
vice
You're
chair.
absent, it could be
Huh?
the vice chair.
It could be the vice chair.
You're
It could
But
be-
absent.
it
the
could be
vice chairman
secretary.
is the acting chairperson if I'm not here, isn't he?
Which
I'm just
is,
saying.
Well, I think presiding officer covers every, it
Yeah.
could be,
Okay.
it could be the chair
Okay.
and the vice chair
It's
are
just
traveling and the secretary is the
Okay.
presiding officer.
Where's that? On the
I'm not-
bottom? Where?
That's fine.
Presiding officer applies to everybody.
What number is that?
we,
The cell phones, it says the presiding officer may order the removal of any
Oh, I see,
electronic-
okay.
I,
Yeah,
I'm just not,
whoever the presiding officer is.
okay, that's fine,
Yeah.
okay. questions on
And
debate?
the other, the other tactic that I like that we've been doing is if you just take out the last sentence. We're not putting anyone in a position that they order us to do or not do. You just say, it's not allowed, it's not allowed, it's not allowed.
Okay, so you want to
remove
order,
that?
the presiding officer may order? Yeah.
Yeah,
Take that out.
kind of like what we did with some of the other things we said, right?
Remove that last sentence?
Yeah.
Remove the
Okay,
last sentence.
got it.
Okay. If a question is in debate contains more than one distinct proposition.
Yeah, that's good.
The commissioner may move to
One
have the
topic at
question
a time.
divided. Okay. Previous question.
I think we do this very well, actually. Remember how we say on the amendment, and once we do the amendment,
Yeah,
then
sure.
as amended? I
So
think we
far,
do
I
that.
think we do this,
that
we
very
follow
well.
this, I think.
We do, and once again, so, yeah, I think it says it down here again with the Masons rules, we'll fix that. But
Okay.
it's really, just consider new CCU members,
We're trying to give them a feel for what they're entering.
and as well as govern the way we
Right,
hold our meetings,
right.
you
No,
know,
no, I
in
get
a
it.
more formalized
We
manner.
need to do a better job.
good.
No argument
Good.
on that point. Okay.
Yeah,
I
num-
really don't,
Questions of privilege is good.
I don't have any, I don't have any.
So in section 1.2.4.2.5, it mentions Mason's manuals. We want to change that to Robert's rules.
Robert's
right?
rules.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay.
That's under motions received?
Yeah, under
Yes.
motions received, yeah. Anywhere where you have the Masons.
Got it. Okay, so that's
Okay.
fixed. And then I will search the document and replace any reference to it with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so on motions received.
What's it, it's called Robert's Rules of Order, is that what it's
Robert's
called?
Rules of
Robert's Rules of Parliamentary Procedure?
Oh,
Yes,
sorry about that.
yes.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so I don't have a problem with any of these.
I like that one. A motion to ensure shall always be in order except when another commissioner is speaking. Move to adjourn.
It's one way to limit it, sure limits it, right? Okay,
Okay. Motion to suspend the rules. I think I took that out. What's motion to adjourn pending motion to suspend the rules?
Why do you need that? I mean, I like the fact that anyone makes a motion, and if you get 3 hands go up, the motion flies. And you can suspend, you can waive them, you can even waive these rules with 3 votes, or a section of these rules.
yeah,
We've always operated that you got 3,
That's all you need.
you can make a decision.
yeah, a decision can be
A
made.
decision
So
of
what
the
do you wanna
CCU
remove?
requires
What part?
The,
motion to adjourn pending motion to suspend rules, right? Is that the one you're looking at?
let's see what.
Let's see what.
Motion to adjourn. I was just looking at all those things, that as long as you have 3 votes, you can do kind of whatever you want. You can make any motion. I didn't want to limit a colleague from making a motion.
Yeah.
You
I
just
know,
gotta get the 3, you gotta get a second.
You gotta get a
the
second,
3.
you got three votes. So, are you talking about precedence of a motion to adjourn and effective adjournment from that part down?
I mean, I guess it's okay, because as long as we have the rule that it takes 3 for anything to
Well,
happen.
you know what, see, at the end of the motion for reconsideration, it says 3 affirmative votes shall be required to pass either motion or to reconsider. And you're right, any motion requires 3,
No, it's all in there.
yeah, so.
So we're okay?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
okay.
no, we're fine.
So we can have
So are you
reconsideration.
wanna just leave precedence of motion to adjourn, effective adjournment?
That's pretty standard.
It is standard.
And motion to adjourn
Yeah.
pending motion
Uh-huh.
to suspend rules?
These are some of the rules, I don't, in my 1 point some years I've been here, I don't think we've ever had one ask for a motion to reconsider until after we adjourn the meeting. Which doesn't
Right,
apply.
but even in that example, right, there's nothing stopping a member at the next meeting.
At the next meeting from
raising his
making,
hand and
say, I'd like to
recognize-
take, to take a look
wanna
at that, you
reconsider our
just need
decision
to,
from the last
you just
meeting?
need three
Yeah.
You
votes
just need 3 votes, and then you.
to pass the motion to
Yeah,
reconsider.
and it also, if I remember from my time in the legislature, it's also another opportunity just to reemphasize what we were voted in here to do, right? If a commissioner wants to emphasize a point, you know, maybe they were not successful in convincing the other commissioners, but that motion to reconsider is just another emphasis on saying, hey, once again, I really feel strongly about this
Yeah,
motion to
we do that
reconsider.
in
It
the
could be,
legislature
we
all
could
the time.
lose, but there's an opportunity
I
to.
think, I don't think we've ever stopped anybody who
Yeah.
said, I'd
Nope.
like to think about this before. I mean, prior to you coming on board and Judy,
Actually,
I remember times with Simon and I back the past 5 or 6 years, we said, hey, we want to reconsider something. And we did. And sometimes somebody said, I want to reconsider, I said, nah. And it just died.
Yeah, it's
There was
good
a
to have
motion,
that
no
right
second.
here, it's good to keep
We,
that.
as an aside, we forgot that one issue we were thinking of putting on the agenda this last meeting.
What?
And it involves the litigation, right?
Yeah.
And, but we didn't do it, right?
Yeah.
It's just something that, a couple of us discussed, but not the whole group. So,
Yeah, that's what I was referring to. It was after the meeting adjourned.
Yeah.
But under these rules, someone can always propose a motion.
Yes.
But in that case, we didn't take any action. It was not on the agenda. We just didn't do it. It's okay. It can be on future agendas.
Okay, I'm down to voting. Is that where you're at?
Yep,
1.2.5?
yep.
Okay. Check and make sure I didn't.
Now, do we go in alphabetical order, or, I mean, I think you just raise your hand.
Correct. And we can
Well,
change
if
this
it's
up.
roll call, then it's
What-
alphabetical order.
Yeah, so since we allowed for roll call, I don't know if you need that last sentence in this section,
Okay,
right? For 99% of our motions, the chairman calls for the vote, he counts to 3,
Yeah.
and it either happens or it doesn't happen, depending on
Yeah.
whether he gets to
And
3.
usually I always say.
And we don't do it in alphabetical order, we just raise our
Yeah.
hand, right?
So take out the and no commissioner,
I think the
the
names of the
names.
commissioners shall be called in alphabetical order, just take that out.
That
Yeah.
sentence, right?
I think if you're gonna do something like that, it would be when you do roll call, right? Because we said,
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
a member can ask for a roll call.
Yeah.
But even that, why does it have to be alphabetical per se? I mean, there's only 5 of us, it's hard to hide.
And the thing about it is usually what I've done, and Simon used to do it too, is when we have a vote and it's unanimous, or if there's 4 of us, I said, you know, it's 4 aye votes, and you record it on the 4 aye votes. And when it's not 4 aye votes, you know, we record it's 3 aye votes,
Right.
2 nays,
Right.
you know.
And it's on the record as to
And it's
who
on the
voted
tape.
aye
It's
and
on the
nay,
tape.
if someone wanted to know
Yeah.
how the vote actually
And if
counts.
it's really
But we don't
close-
have to go through the name, call.
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
so
no,
we'll
no.
keep the last part, no commissioner shall be permitted to vote or change the commissioner's vote after the announcement of the vote by the presiding officer.
Where are you?
Change their own vote?
You're further down. the
Yeah,
line.
I agree with that.
I'm
Oh, I
only
see.
on voting on roll call, right? That's where you're at?
yes,
Yeah, I'm on roll call, this is the last part of that.
we deleted
We
that.
deleted
So we
the
did
names
delete
of
that,
shall
okay.
be in-
The name of commissioner shall be called in alphabetical order?
Yeah.
We
no,
deleted that sentence.
That sentence is out.
So it's every commissioner within should without debate answer aye or nay when the commissioner's name is called.
Yes.
Period.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What if they say abstain?
Right now, it just says A or nay.
Should we add abstain?
No. I mean,
But
you're
what
not-
if they have to abstain?
Why?
Well, that's for
If
conflict.
there's a conflict?
Oh, but then that's,
There's
A
a
different
clause.
section?
Yeah, there's a
Okay,
clause, yeah.
all right, okay.
But we can't let people hide. I mean, you're
No,
elected to
no,
act.
but maybe there's maybe a
You know,
conflict at some point.
yeah, there'll be a section on abstention
Okay,
for cause.
okay,
But they
okay.
just say, you know.
Yes or no?
You could always have somebody say, I'm never gonna vote.
No, I
Then
like
why are you
that.
sitting here?
No, I like that,
Right.
yeah. Okay. No objections.
No objections?
Yeah, I think that's how, we-
Yeah.
I think that's how we've been doing
So
it.
then
why
you
we've
have
been
to
doing
take,
it.
you have to do
I
by,
just say, are there any further discussion? No objections? Let's vote.
say, I object, then you take a hand.
And you
whoever.
talk, or we talk about it.
Show of hands, okay.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Declining the vote, declining to vote?
This is up to the body to decide whether a commissioner can decline to vote. And I think Commissioner Sanchez kind of hit it on the head, is that you gotta act, you either say yes or no.
Is this where the
Unless you have a
conflict of
conflict.
interest issue
Yeah.
is, though?
Huh?
Is this where the conflict of interest issue is?
No, I think it's,
But we may need to add a clause that says, if we're, let me just say in broader terms, if we're gonna say you can't decline to vote, the only exception would be if you
Well, it's
have,
under
if
other
you have a-
reasons. Look further down, under other reasons for excuse, a commissioner who has conflict of interest is ill,
Yes.
is on official business, may be excused from voting. Okay?
Right, so maybe we need to.
But if you're at the meeting, you should vote.
Yeah, we need to rewrite this a little bit, it's confusing.
So,
I would just refer to the only exception for not voting is one, is
Section in
the one about where you have a conflict,
So
so-
refer to,
whatever section.
the
that
other
is.
reasons, the 1 point, because it's more than just, the conflict, right?
But I think we need to, I like it
Oh,
where,
you
where
mean
where the
if they're
commissioner
there.
has to declare the general nature of the conflict.
Okay. Well, I have that there too, but so, in this section, where would the edits go?
okay, I'm lost too.
Okay.
Some with Mike, I'm lost. What do you want?
Declining to vote, I guess, what I was
Okay,
thinking
what do you
is,
wanna say?
in the section on declining to vote, the
Uh-huh.
only exception to declining to vote is that you have a conflict,
Okay.
right? So we could refer to, let's see,
The only valid circumstance for a commissioner to decline to vote would
is
be
if there's a conflict as found in section 1, 2, 3, 4.
if there's a conflict.
Wherever the conflict. is.
Okay, I don't know if you can require a commissioner to vote, though.
On our rules, we can.
So what's the penalty if he decides not to vote? I
Well,
mean-
no, it's just a vote, you gotta, yay or nay. If, we can put in here, a decline to vote is a
no.
nay.
Is a no,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, I think that's
I
what
mean, that's
I
how the
would say.
legislature does it. You can do it twice, but the third time it's a no.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I
But
think,
it does force you,
no, but I think we need to put it in, I don't know how you would word it, Mike, but you need to put in that if the person declines to vote, that's a nay vote.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. But I don't think you can say you have to vote. If you fail to vote, that's a nay vote,
Okay,
you know?
I'm fine with that.
Because if you have a conflict, you'll state the conflict. I don't mind leaving
Yeah,
that down
this-
on the
I
other
think
reasons.
this is not very
You know?
clear, we just have to sort of make it more clear.
maybe, how about something that says if a commissioner still declines to vote, not this, 1, 2, 5, 1, 3 has all the things in it, right?
Right.
If that commissioner still says, I ain't voting, then it'll be counted as a nay. I think if you want, Mike, you wanna just play with language
Yeah.
that just puts in, at some point, you're either voting yes or no. And a decline
And if you're
is a
not
no.
voting yes, then you're obviously
A
voting no.
decline is a no.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Because,
It tells everybody from the get-go, hey, when it comes to the voting part, which is kind of
you
the most
should
important
vote, you should vote.
reason we're elected, to
Yeah.
vote on yay or nay.
should
Those are
vote.
your only two choices, yay or nay, and if you decline, it's a no.
Yeah,
So it still counts.
Got it.
You're gonna own the consequence of your vote, no matter how you paint it.
Right,
Okay, got it.
so it's kind of like failing to vote, that's where that decline part is. So if you can marry the two, maybe, Mike?
You got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And then the next section, other reasons to excuse from voting, I like that one.
Yeah.
If he's not here, he's ill.
Yeah, and I think when you combine
You can
five
actually
one three and 514, Mike, when you play with it, I
Yep.
think that you might want to make a reference that the only reason you can decline is you have a conflict.
Well, I was gonna say, why don't you just put it all under 1.2, 1.5, 1.3?
Yes, we're saying the same
And
thing.
just the declining to vote and just put all of that in
Yeah,
one,
we're saying the same
Yeah.
thing, yes.
in one piece.
Yep.
And Mike can. take
You
a
play
shot.
with it.
Yep,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And then do we say somewhere else what a conflict of interest, or that how a commissioner declares their conflict of interest? In other words, to me, what I've always liked is, you also have to declare why I'm not voting because I have a conflict of interest.
I think that's,
And you have to declare what it is.
I think, this one refers to financial interests in 4GCA. Originally, the subcommittee, had entertained a written statement. I think it was further amended to an oral statement, and shall be posted on the CC website. Did we want to amend, 1.2.5.1.6? To include what Commissioner Sanchez was referring to regarding conflicts? This one just is specific to financial interest, but we could put any conflict.
Yeah, and that they have to state yeah, okay.
You know what? Actually, why can't you just put that all in with everything on top?
Yeah, maybe link it all.
Link it all together.
Into voting.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
and-
voting,
and-
you can vote yea or nay, you can, a decline is a no,
Yeah.
but you can decline if you have a conflict of interest. And maybe
Yeah,
move that all into
why,
one,
and make it a little
and then move
simpler.
all those sections together.
Okay, got it.
And then voting by the presiding officer, I don't have a problem with that. He votes the same as others.
Yep.
Correct.
I go aye,
Yeah.
or raise
I
hand.
always tease Jeff Johnson, because he runs the PUC the other way, right? Which means sometimes he doesn't vote.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've never noticed
I've
that.
seen Jeff not vote, and I'm going, you know, that's sort of a, I'm surprised the colleagues let him get away with it.
We've always voted, even on the PUC.
Yeah, we've always voted.
We've always voted.
Yeah.
The chair's always voted,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
We-
that's why there's five, well,
I
at
mean,
the time, there was five.
I remember that when we had 7 and I was the only no vote and other 6 people, and I said, okay, but I just want to vote no.
And if you, and you always have an odd number, but then if you allow the chair not to vote, then you're back to an even number, and
Yeah.
you could be stuck with ties
I've never
forever.
noticed that though. I've never noticed that at the
Jeff's
meetings.
in I also teased them about, what are those long meetings you guys are having before you all come out? For instance, they're just reading, well, they should read it in public.
That's why we have work sessions.
That's why they're work sessions, that's
Wait,
why,
that's
that's
why
why
we
we're
have
doing
work
this
sessions.
here, we're not.
Yeah, in
coming out of-
public.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
brings us to our next section,
Which is,
electronic voting.
okay.
So that would be, you would be electronic voting if you're not present, is that the thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean,
Do we-
Could I
wanna-
make a suggestion?
mm-hmm.
When you get, the committee and rules may obtain equipment for an established procedural for the establishment of electronic voting by members of the body.
Got it.
Yeah, and maybe get rid of the, obtain the equipment, just establish it.
Yeah.
The committee of rules shall
May-
establish a procedure for, and even electronic, I mean, do we wanna say, are we talking about remote voting versus, okay, there's, electronic voting is, Joey calls for the question, and we push a button, that's the yes button or the no button, that's a way,
Or he.
that's a way to do electronic voting versus, are we talking about when a commissioner's not here or they're attending by Zoom? I mean, maybe we have to start thinking about the new reality is.
We do.
Do we allow, and I don't know if it's, we may need legal counsel to check.
Yeah.
I hear from Senator Klitsky, but I think he's thinking more about the legislature than us. There's a question about whether you can even allow Zoom voting or, you're not present, because there's something in the Organic Act or some body of law that says present. And Klitsky's a very narrow interpreter of the law, but, you know, to him, present is physically present. I'm not sure that Zoom, where I can see, any one of us can see the other 4 of us, and it's all visible and it's all public. And if Simon raises his hand, what difference does it make that he's not physically in the same space? So do we wanna think about remote,
Why don't we
allowing
put
for
it
remote
in,
voting?
but Mike,
The committee can take a shot at it.
We'll ask the attorneys to,
Yeah, so,
you can pose a question to the
You
attorney.
just ask him if it's allowed, and then we can put language in. Because the other thing we can do, Mr. Chairman, it occurred to me, is we beat it up as a group, right? Then send it back to the committee, and I can work with Mike, like for the areas you say, hey, you guys clean up that language, or Mike clean up that language. I don't mind helping Mike to say, okay.
Or else ask,
For
check with
wordsmithing.
legal on this. you know.
I got that, ask legal
Okay.
counsel. So this is just in regards to establishing a rule for electronic voting.
Yeah.
And the intent is not just some sort of device for electronic voting, but
But
when you're not physically
Procedure,
present.
yeah.
But you're otherwise able to participate.
Right.
And that may be the right phrase, where you're not
We'll
physically
leave it up
present,
to
but
you.
you're able to participate in the movie. in
Okay,
the meeting.
votes required for adjournment.
And do we need Cinedyne? Because we
Yeah,
never, the commission never expires, because there's always 2 or 3 still, still sitting.
So adjournment shall be subject to alternate chairman to,
Maybe that's it, period. No Cinedyne.
shall require 3 votes, or no? Because we always vote on adjournment, right?
Okay, yeah. To assign, to a time,
Adjournment?
just drop the reference to Cinedyne. So adjournment, subject to the college chairman, to a time certain, requires 3 votes.
Okay.
That's it, get rid of Cinedyne,
And then-
'cause we never
okay.
die.
And then take out the last sentence.
Right.
Got it.
In the one before that, take out the reference to Cinedyne.
Got it. Okay.
In fact, in all the boards I've been on and commissions, only the legislature has Cinedyne, because they expire.
Yeah.
Except for us.
Yeah, but even these other boards I've been on, no one uses that phrase. I first heard about it in the legislature. I said, oh, because we end our term.
Yeah. All together. Yeah.
Altogether, yeah.
No distribution of non-reading material. I don't think we do that.
We don't, but, we can remove it, but, you know, for
In case you get
executive
one,
session.
the governor sends an emergency letter while we're in the middle of a meeting, I mean, why should you be prohibited from distributing it?
We do get handouts in executive session, so, you know, those are part of the executive session, so I know we always turn it back in, so, but we can remove it, it's up to you guys.
I like to leave it in just because there may be the rare moment where in the middle of the meeting, the governor sends us an urgent letter, or somebody sends us an urgent letter of significance, that we're not prohibited from looking at it. We can distribute it, we can then say, never mind, we'll deal with it, or hey, the governor's asking us to decide tonight. I don't know why, I can't think of a specific example, but.
I don't think you really need this section.
Okay, so delete?
You delete this. Because anytime something comes up, we make a decision. I mean, the other night when we wanted to adopt the LEAC, you know, before the meeting, in our working session, we made a decision. We had 4 votes.
Okay, so at least the chair can authorize it.
Yeah.
Okay, got it, perfect, that's good.
Got it?
Okay.
That's deleted.
Accreditation of the press. Now, I don't know. Mike, we never control who's in here.
Yeah,
The
I
press
take it
comes
out.
and
I take
goes.
it out.
Okay.
You know,
We're not gonna mute anybody.
Yeah.
We're public, I mean, some
well,
idiot
the
wants to
only-
sit in there and
the only-
harass us,
The only thing we do is,
other than decorum.
the only thing I've really been strong about is, and Simon too, is when we're having a meeting, we don't allow other people to talk. I mean, they can request, and sometimes we allow them to say a few words, which is a courtesy, you know, if the PUC
Right.
chairman is here and ask ahead of time, can I have a few minutes? I say yes. I think you've gone down to the PUC and you've asked Jeff, can I have a few minutes, can I say a few words? And he says yes. And so if,
But we're talking about the accreditation of the press, right?
yeah,
So, I mean, we're just saying, we're basically, if you
Yeah.
remember the press, you come in, you can do whatever you
yeah,
want.
you
We don't-
tape whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't wanna mute anybody.
And the only thing we've done is, our practice has always been that if the press wants to interview somebody, they do it after the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if
Stick
you wanna
around.
leave the room and some commissioner wants
Well,
to talk to
if,
you.
if a commissioner wants to do that,
That's up
but
to them, right?
that's
right.
up to them, but usually
But like it says here, they do not interfere with the business.
yeah,
So
but
that's the
I
most-
don't think you need to put it in.
Okay.
I'm for taking that part out.
Oh, you mean the interfere or the whole thing?
No, the whole thing, accreditation of the press, you don't need that.
I like the fact that we're on the record saying, hey, if you remember the press, you can come to the meetings. It's just sort of it's kind of like what we said with the firearms, that hey, whether you like it or not, you can't have firearms in here, right? Right, and we're just saying, hey, the press can be here.
Okay, so you like this part?
Yeah, just leave it in there.
Judy?
I liked it.
You like it? Okay, I was gonna say just, we don't need it, but okay. I don't care.
Doesn't hurt anything.
Yeah, okay,
So we are leaving it in, okay?
okay,
Extension of remarks?
yes. Okay, now I have a question on your numbering, and I should go back through this.
This is all getting fixed.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so cause as we delete stuff, the numbers didn't change.
No, what I mean is, 1.2.8 is just it's just extension of remarks. I think
Yeah, no, it's already,
1.2.9.
I just already fixed it,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, that's all.
Now, can colleagues expel a member?
Huh?
That's an interesting question. Can
What?
colleagues expel a member? Can 3 votes expel anybody? In other words,
No,
you've been
I
elected to
don't.
sit in the room.
I don't think
Whether
you
your
can.
colleagues like you or not,
Yeah.
you can't be kicked out of the room. You
Yeah.
have a right to be in the room. You were voted in.
Yeah,
So what,
I mean, and
I would take
the
it
flip
out.
side, I would take that out. but
Just the
flip-
last sentence?
yeah, pursuant, you can be expelled by 3 votes. No, because that could, that could get, this commission's been great, but I can see that turning really ugly if it was,
I don't think you can do that.
a very partisan. Yeah, you can't tell somebody you don't have a right to sit. The voters gave them the right to sit. Same thing in the legislature, right?
Well, this is a legislative rule.
Yeah, I don't see how you could expel them.
No problem. I hope we never get there, but it's,
Well, no.
it's just for those
So,
that are.
We've
More
had-
the reason to not put it in.
Yeah,
There's 3 votes can't expel a commissioner for any reason. Otherwise, you could gang up on somebody you don't like,
It's true.
right? And,
Yeah.
what the hell is that?
I think we had the opposite happen. We wanted somebody to show up. Simon was very irate and saying, "Oh, this guy's not showing up, his term's not over."
Yeah,
You remember that one?
yeah,
Yeah,
I
okay.
remember.
But even
But
that, you
that was
can't-
expulsion by 1 vote.
Yeah, but
Not by 3 votes.
his own-
Self-expulsion.
That was self-expulsion. You can,
But, you know, even that, you really can't do anything about it. I mean, you know,
Nothing.
hey,
Exactly.
the public will notice what the public
public-
notices.
the public
And that's
will
up to the public.
the public will know.
And, you know, we all get elected on our own.
I heard an anecdote just the other day from a member of the PUC who was critical of a new member of the PUC for attempting to discuss our LEAC recommendation via email. And this PUC commissioner said, under no circumstances should this be discussed via
Yeah.
email. This should be discussed in open session,
In the meeting,
you know.
So, person disqualified? I changed this up a little bit. An employee of
Isn't
Guam.
this by
Water
law?
Works.
I think you
Yeah,
can
I
only
don't
serve
think we
one
need to
commissioner,
say
you
this.
can only be on one board at a time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so you can take this
I
out.
think you can take this out.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Temporary removal from meeting?
I don't think you can do that. That's the same as up above. You know,
Yeah, I'd rather chairman calls recess.
yeah, I got to do a better job of that.
No, you did, hey, it's gonna happen.
Okay.
I'd rather have the strong personalities that sometimes get,
Oh, yeah, no,
Then
I like the passion.
the shrinking violets that you never
Yeah,
know,
I like
never
the
have any clue
passion.
what they want.
We need to control the emotion. That's the part. But the
So-
passion is great.
So remove temporary removal from meeting.
Yeah, persons disqualified and temporary,
Yeah.
both of those.
All right, good job, guys. We're now on rule 2.
Right on.
Moving along.
So let's talk about, can a commissioner order one of our 7 to do anything?
True.
You know, I think in practice, I've never recalled any individual saying, I order Lou, or I order Miguel, or I order John B. I order you to do this. The body can order. No, he or she works for the body.
Yeah, except that there are certain, I'll tell you, like.
You can
with
ask
regard-
for information.
Well, no, with regard to Lou, in terms of scheduling meetings, having dinner or no dinner, that's a call that I usually just make.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
if I
yes,
tell
yes.
Lou, there's no dinner.
Yes.
And so, when we started the COVID, you
Yes,
know,
yes.
I determined that one of the ways of spreading the germ was people talking over, you know, a buffet line.
Well, but Lou is one of the exceptions, right? All of these A, B, C through D are the exceptions.
Oh, these are the exceptions?
These are the ones we can. What we're saying here is you can't do anybody else except these. You can't tell
But-
anybody else.
I don't even think you can tell somebody.
Yeah, I mean,
I think-
you don't want Simon ordering.
The general manager to do
Well,
something.
even
No, I
in
don't.
the
Even the chairman.
chairman's simplest example. So he says, Lou, no dinner. And then I'm getting mad at Joey and I call up Lou. Lou, I want dinner. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to go there. You know, I don't want to. I like you can ask for information. You can do that.
You can ask the
You know.
legal counsel to give you his
Yeah,
thoughts.
give me a copy of this.
Or give you his opinion even. You've
You
done
can
that.
even you can even do that.
I think I'd like to know.
But I can't order them,
Yeah.
like if, in fact, we've had some situations where a colleague or one of us requested an opinion and it never came.
Yeah.
Now, none of us jumped on the table and started beating our breast, but there's an example where we could have said, hey, you know, but no one's done it. But I really want to limit the ability of any of the 5 of us to directly order any of our 7 to do anything. You know, other than to provide information or.
Yeah, you know, say, hey, look.
Otherwise,
how
generally
do we
avail-
do this?
There is an exception here. It says a commissioner may direct an employee of the utility when performing duties associated with the
Oh,
committee.
okay, that's like ordering the food and stuff, right? I like that. I like that exception.
Well, that exception also would apply to like if an employee was part of the committee saying, okay, well, I'll need you to, you know, pursue an audit or follow up on cybersecurity plan or present a summary of our meeting. So I think that was the purpose of the exception.
I don't know, I'm just a little
Think
leery
about
of
that, yeah,
directing
yeah.
an employee, you know, I mean.
It's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
It can be a slippery slope with the wrong commissioner.
Yeah,
In fact, we had a commissioner saying ordering tank levels and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And we're going, That's not your job.
We told the general manager, no, that's
Well,
not
let's
his job.
confine it then. Let's say what we can, because obviously, we're gonna need to be able to direct an employee of the committee that we are chairing to do certain tasks with that committee. Or,
And provide generally available information or
Yeah.
or request analysis. Is that,
Yeah.
let's think about it. Is
You
it
c-
okay
you
for a
can-
colleague?
You can ask for information, you can request for
So
them to
take
give
out-
you
I guess so-
feedback.
I guess the word direct is the hang up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, let's
But
think about that.
it does say no commissioner shall direct. A commissioner may direct.
How about may request or?
May
Yeah,
request.
may request.
Information, generally available. Actually, I guess any information, because,
Yeah.
let's,
Anything.
let me throw out an
Just
example.
request.
Do we wanna allow a commissioner to say, I wanna see the personnel jacket of Joe Cruz in transportation?
No.
I think
See,
no.
right, there's an
Yeah.
example, well, maybe you can't request that, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, information that's generally available, that is not otherwise protected, maybe we have to just kind of think, I think the
Well,
intention of the body is,
yeah,
we know what we
well-
wanna say, it's just kinda how do we.
Well, it's like, I asked the CFO for GPA to give us a historical perspective of the LEAC.
Yeah.
You know, and all that is just, can you compile?
And sometimes I ask them, can you run a range?
Can you run a
Right, now,
range
is
of
that
something?
okay? I mean,
And-
if it's
and-
not, then I wouldn't ask, right? But-
No, all you're doing is you're asking for information
Right, an analysis.
and analysis.
Yeah.
You know, so you. and
So we can
to-
request
to-
information, we can
we
request
request
an analysis,
information,
we can do that.
analysis.
Cause that goes with audits and stuff, hey,
Give me
you
the
know, I heard-
analysis, give
I'm
me
I'm a commissioner, I heard something about in
I want-
transportation.
I wanna know.
John B, can you review
Provide
this
some
information?
analysis
and
to, for
provide,
me,
right.
or provide me some information on this.
So we can request information.
Information analysis,
Analysis, clarification.
clarifications.
Right? How about legal opinions from attorneys? Can
I
we-
think we should be able to request a
An
legal.
individual, right? I've been
Individually.
okay with that, I've never seen
I-
it abused.
I don't
It's
have
not
a
like five
problem
of
with
us are
that.
called. I'm okay, legal.
Yeah, now, we have, you requested an opinion from Graham and Kelly on,
How we can, about our rules. right?
about the rules, right?
Yeah.
So, that's not a problem. We also, I think part of what you asked for was, you asked for the attorneys to opine on the double pay.
Right.
And both of them came back and said, it's a
Right,
conflict with
right,
me.
right.
Both of them, right?
Right.
That's what I remember in the
Yes,
email.
yes.
And then, so they threw it to the outside.
So is
counsel.
it okay to request that?
Yes,
For
I
an
think-
individual commissioner? Is
Yeah,
that
I
okay?
think
That's
it's
not an
okay to
overreach?
request that,
Okay.
because you're not asking them to give you something and slant it one way. They're just, you're saying, give me your opinion. They're gonna give you an opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
You may not agree with it,
We just sort of no different from a
But-
meeting. When you're in a
yeah.
meeting, we say, hey, well, what do you think about that? This is-
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
due diligence, that's
Yeah.
deliberation.
that's trying to inform yourself on what it is, so that you can better make a decision. So, and I'll check on that, make sure that we get that pretty soon. You know, the request that you had for, on double pay?
Right.
Make sure everything was kosher and everything?
Yeah, I
That's-
think
I remember you asked
the only thing we didn't get was conflicts counsel. Cause I thought.
Yeah, no,
But I thought Graham and I thought they answered, they did their part. We're just waiting for conflicts counsel to finish
They
his
did
part.
their part as conflicts counsel, and
Right,
I'll
right.
follow up on that.
Yeah.
And just remember, I'll follow up on that, make sure we get that. Okay?
So I guess the word we may request, right?
I got
Is
that.
a better word?
Yeah,
Okay.
request-
Let's try that.
A commissioner may request for information, analysis, legal opinion, etc. from an
etc.,
employee of the utility when performing duties associated with the
I don't have a problem
committee.
with that.
Okay, that's good, because that's an exception. So the rule is you can't direct, but there is one exception. You can request information.
Okay. So are we still okay with how 2.1.1 reads though? Cause it still says they can direct those people directly under the employment
I like
of
that
the
word, I
CC.
like replacing direct with request.
Even on 2.1.1? No commissioner shall request from an employee except for those. So the whole idea here in 2.1.1 was to make sure that we limited the CCU's involvement in the utilities to just those that we are statutory allowed to employ.
But I don't think,
contract.
I don't think you can even direct a general manager to do something. I think
Per se, yeah.
Per se.
The
You know,
body can.
you know, for example, somebody comes in and says to me, you know, Joey, you know, if they just move this sewer line here or do this
Yeah.
water line here, put this power pole here.
Okay. So
And
we-
then I go and tell John Benavente, can you put the power pole there?
Or John, I don't like that LEAC, I direct you to lower it.
Yeah.
No, that's a
so
body
I-
call, the body makes that choice.
That's the part I don't think we
Okay, so here's what I propose, and we'll put it as we'll end that sentence on the no commissioner, and then we will say, only the Consolidated Commission on Utilities can direct
Okay, yeah.
the following, cause that's
Yeah,
what we're.
That's what we do.
Okay.
When we
Okay, there you
vote,
go.
when we get together and we say, no, what we want, John, is we want this, or what we want, Miguel, is we want this.
Yeah,
That,
that's
then
good.
we're directing,
Okay,
but
let's
it's
try
the
that.
commission.
Let's try that.
Try that. And
'Cause I
after you write it, I'll look at it and
Because I
everybody
think
look
that
at
in
it.
all the years we've been here, that only happens at a meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
Collectively, you can tell, and, hey, John, the body wants this information.
Yeah.
They want you to do this.
Yeah. But we would never say, by the way, for this guy, I think you should charge him half of the SDC.
What's that payment plan?
Yeah.
Here's my list of friends.
Yeah, yeah, see, Joe, I want to stay away from that. In fact, one of the things I think we all do fairly well is because people come to us and say, hey, I got this problem. What I always do is just give it to John
Yeah.
or his
Yeah.
immediate staff,
That's
you
what
know,
I
and say,
do.
if John's not here or Miguel's not here, I give it to the next guy and say, can you give this to Miguel? You know, the girls out there and say, here, give this to Miguel. Here's a name and number. Can you have somebody call? And then they call. And sometimes they call me back and say, okay, I took care of that, Mr. Duenas. I said,
Yeah.
oh, you don't even have to call me back. I tell them, I said, don't call me back, just take care of the customer.
And whenever a person asks me, complains about the power bill, I always say, you're not on the free power list? Oh, man, you gotta get on that list.
Even I'm not on that
But you,
list.
but you gotta be nice to us.
You know what? Hey, you just reminded me of something. I got my power bill for my condo in Hawaii, and they were overbilling me
Ooh,
because they don't have smart meters in Honolulu.
that's
Hawaii
right, they're still
Electric.
putting them in, that's.
No,
exactly-
so what they did is during this COVID thing, they weren't reading meters, they were estimating.
Oh, sounds like
So
us.
I noticed my bill went up in March, for March and April. So my bill for May, now I've got credit balance.
Oh, because they weren't physically going out to read it.
Read it, and
Ah,
so they
that's-
finally went out to read it, and they were just estimating, and when they read it, they said, oh, the usage is,
But don't we have, I think we have not a CC rule, but the utilities have a rule, remember if you can't get to the meter.
Yeah, no,
The
no.
dog is
No,
barking,
no,
right?
but this
You
is-
can do estimate, but then you also have the power to say, hey, I already need to move that dog or move that truck over
yes,
that
yes,
meter.
but this is different. This is because they didn't have their people go out.
Right.
Because it was COVID and all this.
Right.
That shows how valuable that smart meter is, where we
Yeah,
don't have to be
yeah,
out there.
I'm surprised they haven't done that.
Oh, no, I'm not surprised, it's money, Steve. They don't have the money.
Well, we got the feds to pay for half of it. When Obama, if anybody could have gotten it, it was Hawaii.
Yeah, but you know, understand, this is Hawaii Electric, they
Right,
don't
it's
think
private.
like that,
It's a
private.
Well, it's a private company.
It's private company, they don't think like that.
Okay.
So here are the changes, subject to, our approval is, all commissioners shall follow all laws of Guam. No commissioner shall unilaterally direct any employee of either utility, period. The Consolidated Commission on Utilities may only direct those employees under their direct authority, which are listed below.
Perfect.
Can you explain something to me, guys? How come, I know there's a former board member that was basically running GWA.
No.
No?
That.
He was complaining about it.
Who's complaining?
Oh, he was always
Yeah, he was
complaining.
trying to
Who's
say.
always going down to the,
Yeah. And he tried
Oh,
to.
no, yeah, but,
That's what we're trying to prevent.
But did you
we
stop it
always,
before?
I always tell people, you don't have to listen to him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But this will
but now we're
formalize
putting
it.
it here.
This
This
is
will
formalizing
This
it.
formalizes that, but I
That's
always
good.
used to say, you don't have to pay attention to him. When the commission, 3 people get together and say, we want you to do this, then you can pay attention and say, okay, the 3 of them said.
But now he's doing it at the PUC.
Well,
Yeah,
you know,
in
we
fact,
can't,
his comment
Causing
was,
trouble for us.
his
We
comment
can't-
was, well, because they're not running the right mix of generators, which just reminded me of, his challenge was he really wanted to run the utility. If you want to
Yeah.
run the utility, apply for the
Apply for
job.
the job.
But when you're on the board, you don't run
No, you
anything.
don't.
You set policy and the person you hire runs.
in fact, what I did, Judy, once is like, you know, I had, what's his name, down at Eap and Telephone for our favorite plea well, complaining about something. I told the general manager, you go follow up. I'm not gonna go down there. It's an operational issue. He's complaining about his water. It's dirty water. You go talk to him. If I'm going to talk to him,
And
then I
report
got the
back,
job.
and report back maybe.
Yeah,
but
you
not-
can always tell me, give me
but-
feedback, but I'm not gonna deal with that. That's operational.
That's right.
So that's what these rules are meant
Sure.
That's good.
to make sure that the
These
commissioners
people
follow.
understand the role. Okay.
Okay?
I'm looking at time.
You want, maybe we get through two, and then
Let's try and get through
we
two.
can recess at
Yeah.
Rule
Okay.
3.
Five-ish like that.
No, next time though, I can't come, because my class will start on Monday, and it's 3 to 8 p.m.
Well,
Monday to Friday, during summer,
we'll
during
talk
summer.
we'll talk about when we get together again after,
Okay,
after
good,
this.
okay.
Real quick. Performance evaluations. Okay, this is the one
There we are.
that, I have some concerns with. We've,
I have some proposed, okay.
okay, can I start with the
Okay,
big
okay,
picture?
and then I had
first?
some proposed language, but the same thing, so it would spark the discussion. But
Yeah.
go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
We've never done this part really well, okay? What Judy passed out started me thinking again. I took a stab at it back in 2011, I think, Simon?
Yes.
Remember I came up with some criteria for
First time we had ever had any.
criteria for the general manager, the CFO. What I didn't realize I was doing is coming up with a rating sheet. And we actually never adopted any rating sheets. Now they have rating sheets, that's what Judy said, there was a rating sheet for the superintendent.
Yes.
And so I would like to propose that we work first. This is such a big piece. It's really a big piece. I'd like us to really go through and develop how we review, what the criteria are. There's a rating sheet, there's this, and how we do it. So, can I suggest that we put together and everybody starts bringing, like, I think we need a rating sheet. I think,
I had some in
we
that
need to
book.
set salary ranges. I would think that what we need to do is, give everybody contracts. And you know, that to me would, I think, the rating sheet would be public information, not the actual ratings, but the rating sheet, so people have a better understanding of how we do this. I think a contract would give the public a better understanding of what the responsibilities are. We need to do a better job on the contracts. And then there were some other thoughts that I had, but I would suggest that on this piece, can we put this to the side and everybody start giving thoughts? And I'm gonna have to write down my thoughts and we start passing that around. Cause I'm not prepared tonight, but
On the process or the concept? Or
the,
both?
the concept and the process of how we do this. The other thing is, I think what we should do is establish a salary range. That way, when the public out there looks at what we do, they're not saying, wow, that's a really high. No, we're telling them up front, these are positions that require us to pay so much because they're that important. And so our range for this is this. One of the things that struck me is, I think there are a lot of our ratepayers and a lot of citizens are looking and saying, boy, that's a lot of money. And they don't have any idea of what's involved. And so therefore, I think we need to put those things together and try and do all of that together. I've been struggling with this. I tried to put it down, and I haven't been able to do it. Here's what I did. I found out that the attorneys who work in the Attorney General's office, there's a rating sheet for them. So I'm trying to get a copy of that.
Is it public or not?
I think the rating sheets are public. In other words, what you look at is public. How you grade each attorney is not. You understand what I'm saying?
No, help me. So what's the difference between getting an A or?
No. See, that's the point. That's the point. It doesn't tell you this guy get an A. It says this is what we look at when we're grading him.
But that just tells you, okay, so that's the criteria.
That's the
But
criteria.
it doesn't tell you his grade.
No, wait, I'm just saying, to me, it would be important to establish that, and that is public information. So that the public knows, this is what we're looking at when we're grading him. Now, I don't know how the pieces all fit together yet, Simon.
Okay.
But the piece on establishing salary ranges, okay? The piece on having a contract, because what we've done is we have a contract for people who we're bringing in from off island, and we did have a contract now for our CFO, which I thought was very good. But we need to really do a better job on those contracts, so that one of the things, let me explain. One of the things I hear is, well, they come to work anyway. It's not, these positions are not that simple. It's not a question of just coming to work. I mean, our general managers, CFOs, are working even when they're not here. They're thinking about things. And we expect them to do that. We expect them to read, And that's what I'm saying. I'm having a hard time putting that together, but I'm going to try. I tried once before. I don't know if you remember what I did, and I don't even know if I still have it somewhere.
Yeah.
But I came up with a three.
Yeah, I say. I'm with you that, I mean, I guess
But if you want to talk about the big question, should it be public or not, we can talk about that if you want to talk about that.
how about this?
What?
How about we table this?
Uh-huh.
Let's go through, because my sense of the group is 99% of this is fairly straightforward.
Yes, everything else.
The one that we might wrestle with collectively, and it's okay that we're wrestling, it's
And
good,
it's okay.
because we're thinking about
This
it,
one.
is performance evaluation. What if we let's go through the rest of it.
Rest of
Let's
it?
save this for last.
Yes.
The chairman has some thinking, we all,
Yes,
we
and
all
we all
know it's
think about
something
it.
we wanna think about,
Yeah.
right? Cause I would just reflect with the chairman's, another point of view to me was, however, to say that, like in school, a 93 to 100 is an A, right? Okay, so that tells everybody how you get an A. But if you got an A, in our case, we're judging the performance of so-and-so, right?
Yeah.
And if we said John Benavente got a 95, it seems to me that to the citizen, they don't know what a 95 means or even what an A means. It's sort of the A or the 95 is like a marker, right, that gets us to a number. But what's more important is we reviewed, similar to kind of what Judy distributed the other day, above satisfactory, needs improvement, or however, whatever we come up with in criteria.
Guys, one second. Remember, I guess it's over a month ago. Remember I had this big book on boardmanship?
Uh-huh.
And in it, did you see that section? I had
didn't
a
see the
section
book.
with the evaluation forms.
Yeah, I mean, I sent the evaluation forms last year in September.
I know, you had a design and I had a design.
Yeah.
So we have something already.
We have some stuff, I know.
Yes.
I'm just saying, like Simon, I'd like us to just put this on the side for a minute and kind of put all our thoughts back together again.
Okay.
And just concentrate. This is such a big piece.
It really is.
And
yes.
it
So-
seems to be only two issues, how to evaluate. I think we all agree we need to evaluate.
And what
Yeah,
do we do
oh,
with
yes.
it?
What do we do with those
How do we
evaluations in terms of the public?
communicate?
Yeah.
Right?
Let me
Okay.
tell you what the school board does, because I was there when we started doing this, okay? Actually, I helped develop the evaluation forms for the school board. That's why I put KPIs also in my book, that word book for A's for training, right?
Okay.
Okay. The board establishes a committee on evaluation. The committee on evaluation is the one that sets up the forums to make sure all the forms are prepared. And at the point in time, distributes the forms to all the members of the board to individually evaluate the performance of the superintendent. They only evaluate the superintendent.
Yeah.
The superintendent appoints the deputy superintendents at DOE under the law. Anyway, then the committee takes all that input and then compiles it and comes out with the final points. And then the committee will report the findings to the full commission. And then the full commission is given a little time to study the report, and then comes back and makes a decision.
Well, I like all of that, but, you know, here's the thing. I think, with respect to the general managers, I get that. It
It is different because we have 7, that's the difference, yeah.
Yeah, no, see, I would say if it's just the general manager, I think I can see some things there that are a little different. CFOs and lawyers are have to kind of find some pattern. The general manager is so different because I think when I took a stab at it, I tried to put a planning criterion, remember? That, you know, that said that they had to be planning, they had to do more than they just couldn't come to work every day.
Oh,
First
no,
thing
no,
they do.
They're specific
Yeah,
performance.
you know, and then they had to keep the operation going. There were like 3 pieces, I think, Simon, that I had there.
Coordination with the board.
And then there were different values for the
Yeah.
3 pieces,
Yeah.
and then we added it up and we said, so I'm asking if we can put this on the side, let's get
Why
together.
don't we do this last?
Okay.
Let's all think about it, because.
Let's think about it.
Yeah, because my thought is, that, I mean, I think we all agree we want to do performance evaluation.
Oh, yeah, no,
And
that's
then we
very
can,
important.
whether we do it in these rules or later, but we gotta figure out what that is.
Yeah.
And then the only really debatable piece that we're debating is, once we know that so-and-so got a grade, a rating, a whatever you call that thing, right? And we always connect it, and therefore, based on that rating, we retain or not, we give them a raise or not, or cut their pay or leave them alone, but those all flow from that review.
And it
So
also.
we gotta figure out how you do the review.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then we connect the review to
Right.
pay, and we have to be careful how we
I do-
determine that. And then the last piece is, once you've done all of that, what if not all of it, not part of it, some of it, should be made public?
Okay.
The school board, they call a press conference, and they
Yeah.
release it that way.
Yep, so there's an example of a
So-
board that is very.
However, in areas that require improvement,
Yeah,
you know, they're little, they're not as
transparent,
open.
yeah. Oh,
You know, let's say Nerissa got because in one of those, you see, she got a 4 out of the 5.
yeah.
And so what was the one she didn't get a good grade on? You know, they say better communication. That's the general statement. She needs to communicate better with the board. I think that was the statement in the news story. But there's more behind that.
And
Actually, she's lucky she got a 4. She probably should have got a 2.
Well,
It's really
I think
bad.
that's
It's
a good
really bad.
example of a board wisely determining the rating and how they would describe the rating.
Yes.
And-
There's gotta be
And I
sensitivity.
think at some point, you gotta let the humans just sort of take it over.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I don't think we can sit there and go, well, if you get an 87.4, it means X. I don't know what it means.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
Okay.
too,
And the only other thing I want to emphasize is I do want to stress that I really believe what we need to do is have some sort of a range of
Yeah.
what these people make. And I'll tell you why, because I think the public out there thinks that we're just going to keep raising pay.
Yeah, no.
There's no end to this.
No. But
You
by
know,
the way, on another board, the university,
Uh-huh.
Board of Regents, the system is, you know, by law, you have to do the evaluations, by law.
Yeah.
All
we haven't-
government
we haven't
instrumentalities.
been doing it.
The university is a little more cautious in the way they announce their evaluations. And money is one factor that indicates how well the person has
Yeah.
done, you know?
Money does.
And I have seen this happen where UOG has a policy where I think administrators who are appointed, they can get up to a 4 or 5% increase every year based on their performance evaluations. So if an administrator doesn't get a 5% increase, gets like a 1% or 2%, or no percent, that's an indicator of how they perform.
Yeah.
If the president wasn't the president does
If
that.
they didn't get an increase, that's an
The
indication.
president
but-
evaluates all the administrators, and then the board evaluates the president. That's the only position they evaluate is the president.
Yeah.
And they-
but I think we're, it's like the chairman alludes to some of the criticism, right? I think to me, you have to link the pay decision.
Yeah,
Up,
to the performance.
down, or no.
Yes,
Yeah.
right? And
You can say that in
to the
the,
evaluation, and inherently, you're gonna, if, to the degree you make it public, it's public, right?
include that
Now,
in the.
how you word it and all that, you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
be
yeah.
more
that's
careful.
You know,
what
the
I'm
way
saying.
to do it, the way to do it is, you have a statement on the form. Unless an administrator receives a, three or better, there's no increase,
I think,
something like that,
Can
right?
I just contribute? So what is the intent of not making it open? Is it just so we don't hurt someone's feelings?
No, it's
Okay.
rights of the individual.
No, I
Well,
get
yeah.
that, but
Help me with that, because I'm with Michael. I don't,
Because-
what
'cause-
right do they have? They're an
Yeah.
employee at will. They don't
they're,
have
they're
rights.
an at-will
They're-
employee that is applying
It's not,
for.
it's different from the private sector.
I get that,
The
but
laws of the government are different.
well, no, we set the rules, we set the contract.
Yeah.
These are people that we
No,
hire.
yes,
And we can
yes.
require them.
but they also have certain protections
rights
under the
for
law
privacy.
that go beyond that. Yeah, privacy right,
They have
so
privacy rights.
that's why you have to be cautious.
No, I think both Simon and I feel that, because he alluded to a comment that we just have to be smart about how we evaluate our
Yes,
officials, but we are publicly, we're
no,
elected
we should
officials.
announce, we can announce that so-and-so has received a satisfactory rating for this current period of evaluation.
Right, so, but that
Okay,
act
so-
alone is revealing your review,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So
and then-
I don't know what we're worried about revealing a good review or a bad review. A review is a review. Either you did a great job or you didn't do a great
And
job.
that's what I think Judy's saying.
Right?
The way that people understand whether they got a good review or a bad review is whether they got an increase or no
Yeah,
increase.
yes.
That's how that works.
Well,
But
no,
let
well,
me-
here's what I
hold
would
on,
disagree, well,
hold
okay.
on. Let me just say that as we go through everything in this executive session, we can hold an executive session, we can discuss not pay, but everything else but pay. We can evaluate, we can appoint, evaluate, and dismiss somebody
In
in
executive
executive session. And it says here, limitations. Except provided in this chapter, nothing in this chapter shall be construed to require disclosure of records that are any of the following. And one of them is personnel, medical or similar files. The disclosure of which would constitute, no, I'm just saying,
Yeah, I know.
this is the section. All information regarding salary and the name and the worksite mailing address is public record. That's, they stated, salary, name, and the working site. That's public, and that's what we post with the legislature and everything else. They're saying that personnel files are personnel. The employee has a right to personnel files like that.
Yeah, I think your definition of personnel file is too broad. I think, in a personnel file, you have social security numbers, you have date of births, you have the age of a person, you have sometimes statistical demographic stuff like race, ethnicity. That, I think, is the spirit of that law. We're talking about a public agency in which, as elected officials, we're tasked with making sure that the people that we hire, the 7, or the list of people that are in the rules, that we're making sure that they're running the public utility in a satisfactory manner. So
Wait,
we're not can I finish?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So we want to evaluate them on their performance. No one's suggesting that we're going to disclose their age. No one's just gonna
No, that's not
suggest
what's
that. Can I finish? That we disclose specific information that I think really is the spirit of the law. What we're attempting to do is make sure that the public knows how well these managers are doing at their job. That's our job. Our job is to make sure that the utility managers are running the utility in the best interest of the ratepayers, and the public should know how well they're doing or how well they're not doing. And so when we do come back to this section and describe how those evaluation forms will be filled and what KPIs will be obtained, we need to be smart about it. We need to make sure that they're very relevant, that they're public information that's already available, that's not part of their personnel file. Whether they've achieved a certain KPI is, yes, it's part of their personnel file, but this is really more of the law and the personnel files is really more about stuff that nobody really should know. The stuff we're going to be evaluating them on is everything that the ratepayers should know. How well they're doing, how well they're managing their utility. I think that's all we're saying. on these open session evaluations is establish KPIs that are already available to the public and determining how well that that manager has done to those publicly available numbers, right? It's not part of their personnel file. It's part of what they're entrusted to do
Part
to
of their
run the utility.
performance.
Yeah.
Part of their performance, right?
Well,
Thank you.
You know, you're talking about the record, I agree. Problem is, to me, is that if you bring up in the evaluation process something that is very negative to these people, you affect them personally in their ability to get their next job or to do anything. It's one thing to allow the public to know what we're doing. It's another thing to affect negatively that person's ability to go out and get a next job. Let me give you an example. If we say to somebody, look, you've really messed up, and we did this once. We said to people, we had some individuals where we said, look, this is not working out. It's better for them to just resign so that as they go to their next job. Now, if they refuse, then we can say, we fired you. But I would always give the deference to somebody. Okay, the best example I can give you is when we were doing the CFO for GWA. We had one individual who said, by the way, can you not tell anybody I'm applying? Don't tell it, because I don't want my boss to know that I'm applying for this position. And that's just an example of why
They're
there
not
are
an
some private.
employee at that time.
Huh?
They're not an
I
employee.
know, Simon, I'm looking for examples, that's all. Bear with me for a minute.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there are examples, I don't have them right now. That's why I like the idea of putting this on the side. I'm just saying that there are examples, and that's the only one I could think of right now, because it's recent. And the guy, you remember, he says, can you not make public that I'm applying for this?
Well, I have to make one clarification on UOG. I just have to.
Okay.
As I said, the president evaluates all the administrators, the unclassified, the deans, the vice presidents, it's the president. And the board only evaluates the president. So this is one difference that we experience here, because we have 7 people, right? Okay, now, but when the president evaluates,
Sherry got hers.
sorry, wait. Just hold the line first, hold the line, please. When the president evaluates the administrators at the university and rates them using a form and so forth, that is not made public. So others do not know, whether they got a good evaluation or didn't.
I guess to me the difference is, because we have a similar situation.
And these are unclassified
We-
administrators.
Right, but we have a similar situation here. These are the only 7 we directly hire, right? At GPA, there are some AGMOs and AGMAs that are only appointed by the GM, right? And I think, and Joey, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the AGMO, I don't know what's the phrase, like he has to consult us or inform us, but we really don't have any power over his review of these people underneath him, right?
Yeah.
Except for the ag.
Yeah, except
Or-
for, I
or
think for the
for- or
AGMO.
for
But
his-
even then, I don't think the even law allows us to say you can't, it's a little
Hold
fuzzy
on
in the
a
way the
second.
law was written. It doesn't,
Can you call them back?
Yeah,
Just
I'll-
tell them-
it doesn't say the
call them
commission can
because we don't
overrule
want
the
to hear
general
this.
manager's
It might be
review
urgent.
of the
Yeah.
act.
Okay, why
It's a
don't
fun,
you
it's
just-
fun, it's fun, right? It's not
Okay.
well-written legislation, but I think the difference in Judy's example is, whether the president's evaluating his minions or our managers are hiring or evaluating the people underneath him that report directly to him. One, that's not even our purview, so whether it's public or not is more bound by
Okay, but
some of the laws that Joey's alluding to. I would generally agree that I think part of the argument is, or the debate, is what does personnel mean? And the only thing I'll add, because I like the idea that we can get tied up on this all day and
Yeah.
we can finish the rest.
Yeah.
And maybe save this for the end, because we clearly want to improve the way we evaluate.
Oh, yeah.
We're just debating whether it's public or not and in what way. And the only thing I would say is, I never promise any of the 7 that we hire that I care about your next job. because the only thing I was elected to do was care about the ratepayers' money being managed by the 7 that we hire. And if you don't do a good job and you're terminated or leave politely and, you know, mutual agreement, however you leave, I don't really, personally, I don't really care how it impacts your future job. In fact, I'd rather say to them, you need to do well for us, with us, because if you leave under poor circumstances, it will affect your future job. But I'm not afraid to say you didn't do a good job if someone didn't do a good job. I mean, that's to me, that's our obligation to the people that pay our salary and his salary. We didn't think employee X did a good job, and so we terminated him, or we agreed to go our separate ways. And that's our review. And, and our 7 would know that going in.
Okay.
That's
Now,
all.
okay. I'm gonna say just one thing though. There was a time when we had a thought that maybe we only do the general manager and let him do everybody else. Remember that? No, this is a time back. I'm just saying when I had took my stab at that time, remember? And I'm just sharing that we had talked, and one of the things we said was maybe we don't wanna do the CFO and because this whole concept that they really worked under, we didn't.
But the reason we abandoned it is at the end of the day,
No,
if we don't
we
say
just never finished it, Simon. I don't think we abandoned it.
Well, to me, the reason I abandoned it is it doesn't, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what, it's important to hear from the GMs what they think about the CFO, for example.
Yeah.
But the
And
only
we
thing
actually
the only
passed
thing
a
that matters
resolution
is
on
the
that.
3 commissioners vote to employ or not employ, to pay a raise or not.
Okay, so,
And
I agree.
And I owe
Can we
it
just
to, I owe it
put-
to the people that elected us to say, here's why I think so-and-so should
Okay.
get a 20% raise, a 10% raise, a 5% raise, or no
So-
raise, or
so-
should be terminated.
okay, so I think we're going round and round.
Okay,
and
so, I mean,
Can we put this on the side?
Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody has their philosophy.
Yeah, and let's.
Keep going with it,
that.
man.
Let's go through the rest, and hopefully we'll come back to that, and that will be the real big piece that we need to wrestle with.
Yeah,
Okay?
let's do that last.
Where are we?
Duties
We-
of the,
we are-
duties of CCU officers. I think,
Okay,
right?
duties of, okay. I'm gonna go back to mine and see.
We're on,
What we're doing is we're moving to duties of the CCU officers.
Oh,
We're,
okay.
we're agreeing that that's such a big piece that
We'll
we'll
do it
leave it,
last.
we'll do it for the
Okay.
last and,
Joy, I have one request for that to be
Sure.
ready though.
what?
I'd like to get a legal opinion from somebody on, unclassified employees, because they're all unclassified.
Right.
well, at one point they were contract employees. I mean, they're unclassified now, but prior to their contracts expiring for like the CFOs and legal counsel, they were contract.
Well,
Well, I mean, you
I
can be
think
contracted,
contracted
but
is
still
still,
unclassified.
yes,
Yeah,
still
yeah,
classified.
either way,
In
but
fact, I think one usually accompanies the other.
meaning they're not merit, classified employees, they're
Yeah.
not
They
merit.
serve at our will.
Yeah.
Right, but,
Versus everyone else, you'd have to go through a
I
process.
just want to know.
but their employment is outlined in the contract, right, as opposed
Yeah,
to
of course, of course.
rules and regs.
And, I mean, they're not there forever, they're not merit classified employees, they're non-classified employees, unclassified employees. So,
Yeah.
what I wanna know is, how does that section,
Let me write that down.
yeah, the section on,
Okay,
personnel
Yeah.
matters that you, how does that affect unclassified administrators under the purview of the CCU in terms of disclosures of performance, public disclosure of performance?
And
You're talking about unclassified or the 7 we hired?
Just the 7, our 7, the 7 that fall under the CCU,
and as
who are
a-
unclassified. How does section da-da-da of public law da-da-da
okay.
relate to potential disclosure of performance ratings?
Okay, I'm going to try and take a stab at writing the question that we
Yeah,
want to
you write it,
ask,
yeah, but you know what I'm
And then I'll run
asking
it
for.
around
Yeah.
to make sure we're asking the right question.
Yeah,
Okay?
make sure it's the right
Make sure
question.
that is the question you're.
To me, there's a sibling to that.
Which is,
Can the employee, can the CCU require the either require the employee to waive it, or can the employee waive that?
Yeah, that should be part
In
of
other
the
words,
question.
It should be
Because
part of
I've
the
always-
contract.
Of course.
Could it be
Because
part of the
if,
contract?
see, if they serve at our pleasure, we write that contract that
Yeah,
serve
you
at
put
our
that in
pleasure.
there, but
And-
if it's legal to do it, yes.
Well, it's a, I mean,
Wait, no. If the attorney says you cannot do that, then you can't put it in the contract.
Well, we just need to, so the question needs to be better
Yes, it does. It
clarified,
does.
right? Because there's a difference between having a legal opinion on the existing employee rules and regs when they're not really employees.
Actually, this is law, not employee rules.
But it doesn't
this
apply
section.
to them if they're contracted.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. The rules and regs, the only reason why it applies to them now is because they've rolled out of their contract into unclassified positions.
and
That
many of them
doesn't
don't,
matter.
many of them don't have a contract. No, you can contract, in other words,
You can be
we
classified.
contracted to bring people's goods when
Can-
we
can
hire
I-
them.
can I ask
You can't
you-
do that with a classified
Okay,
employee.
here's the thing. Why don't we do this? I'm hearing a lot of different things. Can I ask everybody to ask the question that they would like to ask of the attorney?
Okay, you
Let's
got
do
my
that, let's do
question.
that, let's do that.
You already know what I want.
I'm gonna rewrite yours.
I just
so-
want to know how that personnel
Right.
section applies to the
Okay.
7
Okay, so that's one question.
unclassified administrators that fall
Everybody
under
give me a
CCO.
question. I'll try and put
And
them
then
all
you get your
down.
question, you get your
And send them
question.
one time to the attorney.
Yes, we
okay?
need that.
Okay.
We need that.
Since both attorneys are part of the ones we're referring,
probably have to
you'll
go to
go to,
conference council.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
And that
So
way- that way-
everybody give me an email
Yeah,
on what your question
but
is.
you already got mine.
Yeah,
See, Mike, that way you can ask your question,
yeah.
whether
Send
they're
me an email.
whether you can include a proposition that they must agree to as condition of the contract. Disclosure, public disclosure.
Okay,
That has to be one of the questions.
I like it.
Okay.
It's 5:00, and
Yeah.
we're duties as CCU officers. And you wanna go till 5:30? What time's the meeting?
We're
meeting's
very
at
close,
6.
Better get
very
going.
close to getting to, rule 3. We only have some of these,
Okay.
I mean, but it's up to you guys, and we can recess.
But you don't want to be late for who's going to that other meeting? You're
well,
going?
I'm going to go to that meeting, but
Okay.
What time is that meeting?
I think it's at
7?
6.
The
No,
PUC?
it's
Oh,
at
6 o'clock.
Huh? The PUC, I think it's at 6.
Why don't we, then if it's at 6, let's stop here, because, then we
Yeah.
don't.
You don't want your eyes finished.
So I'm gonna stop us at duties of CCO officers.
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
highlight that.
Because I like, well, today's meeting was good. We agreed on a lot of the,
Yeah.
kind of the stuff, right?
No, we're making great progress. I think we're going to be the only board that has anything like this, Michael.
Oh, wow.
Really. And I think we should have a press conference when we release it. Oh, yes, I'd love to see a press conference when we release this.
Okay, so,
So,
do you think?
So the PUC,
oh, wait, let me
oh,
get,
do we
let me
need a,
get Lou.
did we recess?
No, not yet.
Okay.
But I want to get Lou, so she knows what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we don't have to record this session? I don't see any, the recording device.
It's there.
I know they had the microphone. Mr. Chairman, do you know if this is recorded? Oh, Lou's got her tape on. How about, only the microphones are on, right?
So,
Right, I mean, they might be on, but they might not be recording.
oh, I
was just
see.
I was just
It's
curious.
possible.
But Lou's got her recording.
Oh, we have to decide when we're going to meet next.
Yep.
So when does your schedule get crazy?
My classes are at 3 o'clock until 8 p.m., Monday to Friday, starting. So I could come in the morning.
Mornings or lunchtime, right?
Yeah.
I'm, mornings or lunch? Yeah, I'm very flexible for mornings or lunch.
I'm almost done with some bids, freed up, but,
When?
What day is good?
When will you be freed up?
next week, we wanna do it next.
Oh, it depends on
We
your
should
schedule.
continue the
Don't-
momentum.
Let's just,
Yeah, even if it's just one meeting, we'll just keep plotting
Yeah,
through it till we
So
can.
then I'm good, I'll just,
What day is good?
it doesn't matter to me.
How about Wednesday?
I don't like, I always do something noon when,
Okay, so
but I
how
can do
about,
Tuesdays or Thursdays, or Mondays.
how about Thursday?
Yeah, like today was a.
Thursday's fine.
Yeah, Thursday.
Do it at noon.
Thursday at what time?
Noon?
Thursday.
Yeah, because
Okay,
then
the
I'll be able to get to my class.
Yeah,
I'm doing it online. All my classes summer is
Okay.
all online. at home.
Judy, just understand, we don't have lunch, meals anymore.
I know.
Okay, no. I'm saying, so
I know.
eat appropriately. Eat before the meeting.
Oh,
or eat-
that's what I've been doing, bringing my
Okay.
dinner.
Mr. Chairman, is there, is there a reason you couldn't just order Subway sandwiches?
Well, I don't know, just me,
COVID thing?
I
yeah,
guess
the
we should
COVID
wait.
thing.
Let's wait.
I'd rather,
So I have
so you can bring your own
I
sandwich.
posed an interesting question, So you can't have buffets.
No, you
Right now,
can't.
it's- right?
Yeah, so how
But,
are we
hold
gonna
on,
do our reason?
but 25 people can have a barbecue at the beach.
Oh,
Which you're
Oh, yeah, I
sharing-
saw that.
Yeah, so I'm kind of going, so what's the difference?
Yeah, what's the difference?
I mean, if
well, I
you-
don't think they should do that, see?
Well, but
I mean,
that's the
yeah,
latest
no,
thing.
really,
Yeah.
I'm serious.
I think you're right, that's not a good
It's
decision.
like my wife seriously doesn't want to go to restaurants even
Yeah,
to dine in.
I'd be very careful.
In fact, she cooks more. I've been putting on weight. My wife's a really good cook, and she makes really good desserts.
But I have a question, Simon.
But I noticed that you can have a barbecue now.
Yeah, with 25
You can have
people.
25 people.
I don't
You
think
can
we
do it
should
at the
do that.
beach, but you can't have a buffet. I've never seen a fiesta
That
table
doesn't
that
make
wasn't a
sense.
buffet.
I have a question. So they said you can have CrossFit, yoga, this,
Not a
but
gym.
not open
Yeah,
the gym.
I was
So
trying
where
to-
do you do all that?
Yeah, I was trying to understand that better, but
Outside?
They said something about, like when you ride your bike,
Yeah.
right? For some reason they consider that more risky than a CrossFit or a